Hello everyone, I am Melabet Sain from BC3L and welcome to this video presentation on how to write an effective research paper. I will discuss to you the concepts, processes, and tips on how to write a well-structured and effective research paper, as well as presenting our research from Group 25 entitled Culturally Responsive Teaching, Bridging the Achievement Gap in Diverse Grade and Classrooms at Zeferino Arroyo High School. Now, let me tell you first the brief introduction of our study. But first, by the way, when you are going to write an introduction for your research, it is important to note that it should be aligned with the literature review. So, here are the introduction of our research about CRT. The Philippines' diverse culture with over 100 dialects and ethnic groups is evident in schools with 75 to 85% being linguistically heterogeneous. So, this diversity leads to an achievement gap which can be addressed through culturally responsive teaching. CRT aims to create an inclusive learning environment that promote academic success for all learners, especially the underrepresented ones. So, this study investigates the implementation of CRT techniques in grade 10 classrooms at Severino Arroyo High School. So, focusing on strategies like activating prior knowledge, making learning contextual, and building trust. So, let's come now to the statement of the problem. So, the first step in writing a research paper is to identify a research problem or question. This problem or question should be clear, concise, and relevant to your field of study. A good research problem should also be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. For example, in our study, our purpose is to look into how culturally responsive teaching can be utilized to narrow achievement gaps in schools with diverse students populations. The following questions will be investigated in order to guide this investigation. First, what are the culturally responsive teaching strategies employed by teachers in diverse classrooms? Second, what are the challenges faced by teachers in implementing culturally responsive teaching in diverse classrooms? Third, what are the implications of culturally responsive teaching in addressing the achievement gap of the students? Fourth, how do culturally responsive teaching strategies influence students' academic performance? And last, what recommendations can be made based on the findings of the study? For the assumptions of the study or hypothesis, once you identified your research problem, you need to make assumptions about the study or formulate a hypothesis. Um, Assumptions are statements that you believe to be true but not have been proven, while the hypothesis is a statement that predicts the outcome of your study. For example, the following basic assumptions were considered in our study. First, um, different racial backgrounds, diverse languages, as well as all socioeconomic differences influence students' performance and learning experiences. Second, this presumption is that students' engagement, motivation, and success will arise in school through cultural identity. Responsive practices which validate the identities of students have been found to be beneficial for learning outcomes. Next, address systemic concerns like lack of access to culturally relevant issues within the institution, cultural mismatch, and institutional racism within the classrooms. Last is that in order to encourage continued professional growth, it is important to comprehend how teachers can improve their cultural competency, comprehension, and culturally responsive teaching through community or classroom instruction and training. So, um, please note that your assumptions or hypotheses will guide your research design, data collection, and analysis. Now, for the significance of the study refers to the importance and relevance of your research to your field of study, society, or the environment. Your study should also contribute to the existing body of knowledge, address a gap in research, or provide new insights into a particular issue. For example, this study aims to address the achievement gap in diverse classroom by exploring the implementation and impact of culturally responsive teaching. It will benefit students, teachers, parents, school administration, policymakers, researchers, and future researchers by providing insights and practical applications for culturally responsive teaching. Now, let's come to the definition of terms. It is essential to define key terms and um, concepts used in your study to ensure clarity and consistency. This will also help to avoid confusion and wrong interpretation of your findings. For example, here are the following terms in our study that are defined so that the readers will understand better the meaning of the important term. So, achievement gap. It refers to the significant difference in average scores between two groups of students, such as race, ethnicity, or gender. Culturally responsive teaching acknowledges and embraces students' cultures, languages, and experiences, relating them to classroom learning. Next is the diversity. It involves including people from diverse social and ethnic backgrounds and genders. Last is the diverse classroom. So it creates safe, inclusive, and equitable learning environments for various identities. So your definitions should be clear, concise, and based on existing literature. Now for the review of related literature and studies. So a review of related literature and studies is essential to situate your research within the existing body of knowledge. This will help you to identify gaps in research, build on existing knowledge, and develop a theoretical framework for your study. So, let me discuss to you the two major RRLs of our study. First, a study by Gay 2010. This study defines culturally responsive teaching as a teaching intervention that foster good relationships between educator and students of different cultures as they engage in all aspects of the learning environment. Gay identifies two characteristics of culturally responsive learning environment. First, an inclusive environment that embraces students' languages, life experiences, and cultural backgrounds into the learning that, that occurs in the classroom. Second, an ability to make connections between the school environment and the culture in which students live. So, second RRL is the study by Rael 2025. This study provides five main CRT techniques that instructors can employ and incorporate into their teaching to create a more culturally equitable classroom. So, here are the five main CRT techniques. First, activate students' prior knowledge or cultural experience. Second, make learning contextual. Third, encourage students to leverage their cultural capital. Fourth, reconsider your classroom setup. And last, build relationships. So, these two studies are significant because they provide a foundation for understanding the concept of culturally responsive teaching and its importance in creating an inclusive and equitable learning environment. Gay study highlights the need for teachers to be aware of and responsive to the cultural backgrounds and experiences of their students, while Real study provides practical strategies for implementing CRT in the classrooms. So, for the methodologies, the methodology section of your research of your research paper should describe the research design, respondents for or informants, sampling strategy, instrument, and statistical treatment or data analysis. These were included in order to meet the particular research study to provide a complete overview of the method used. So I will provide you with an example of methodology based from our research. So for our study, we employ the mixed method research design. It combines elements of quantitative research and qualitative research. So in order for us to answer our research question, mixed methods can help us gain a more complete picture than a standalone quantitative or qualitative study as they integrate the benefits of both methods. That is according to George 2023. So for the informants we choose for this study are the grade 10 teachers at Zeferino Arroyo High School. So this study employed a specified sampling techniques. The purposive sampling techniques, also known as judgmental or selective sampling, was used to select teachers for analysis. For our research instrument, um, we use um, we use questionnaires, Likert scale format, a CRT locator checklist, and a semi-structured interview to assess cultural responsiveness in schools with diverse student population. The goal was to identify achievement gaps and evaluate the level of cultural responsiveness among teachers and students. So for the data analysis, we use frequency distribution to calculate the survey results and CRT locator results. We categorize response options into strongly agree, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree, and selected each CRT chosen. So thematic analysis was also used to measure recorded responses from semi-structured interviews. This approach helps highlight the highest or lowest frequency of um, response options. So, in writing your research methodology, it is important to note that in terms of your research design, it should be aligned with your research problem and objectives. So, common research designs include experimental, quasi experimental, survey, and case study designs. In terms of respondents or informants, it should be relevant to your research problem and objectives. You should also ensure that they are willing and able to participate in your study. Now, before I end my presentation, let me tell you some tips that you can use in writing an effective research paper. First, start early and allow sufficient time for research, writing, and revising. Second, use clear and concise language, avoiding jargon and technical terms unless necessary. Third, use visual aids such as tables, figures, and images to enhance the paper's clarity and readability. Fourth, get feedback from peers, mentors, or editors to receive constructive feedback and improve the paper. Last is use proper citation and referencing to acknowledge sources and avoid plagiarism. By following these tips and by using the concepts, processes, and alignments that I've just discussed, you can produce a research paper that is well structured, well written, and effective in communicating your research findings. It will also contribute to the existing body of knowledge in your field. So, that is the end of my presentation. By the way, the research that I've presented is just about chapters 1 to 3 because our paper is still in ongoing process. But I assure you that all that I have said is true and will be beneficial for you as you write your own research paper. So that would be all for my presentation, and thank you for listening.